The idea that a degree of melanin in your system determines whether or not you are a kind person, determines whether or not you are a loving person, determines whether or not you will treat people fairly or unfairly is immensely stupid. Hello, boys and girls. Hope y'all are doing well and staying safe out there. Oh boy, did Nick Cannon step in it. Nick Cannon, known for some TV shows and being an actor, on his podcast, basically put his foot in his mouth by letting out a little bit of racism. Oh boy. So he lost one job, but he has kept another one. And man, before I show you this clip, I'm gonna say this. The idea, okay, that black people cannot be racist, it only works if you change the very definition of racism. This is intellectually dishonest, you know? It's evil, it's wrong, but nevertheless, some black folks have done so. And so, by the very same standard that white people were judged as racist, this same standard does not apply in their minds to black people. And so racism really, as it is usually defined, is basically the idea of one race of human being being superior to another purely based on racial traits, particularly genetic traits, right? Just the fact that someone is black or, Hispanic or, Chinese or whatever. The basic idea is that a person's racial characteristics, the immutable things, that is to say things that cannot change, can make them superior or inferior to another race of people. And so by that definition, good old-fashioned white supremacists say, stuff like, a lot of white supremacists, or really any racist, speaks in generalities. And so it's always a blanket statement. It's never focused in an individual way. It's always say, well, black people this, black people that, rather than recognizing and respecting individualism. It's always a global blanket statement. This is basically the thin red line between non-racist and racist, right? And so with black folks, thanks to this deconstructionist, postmodern society we live in now, the definition of racism has been changed, and their idea of racism is basically discrimination versus, well, in this case, black people using institutional means of power to hold someone down or to suppress them, right? And so it's basically power plus prejudice, and that being executed in some way that makes life supposedly harder for people that aren't white, right? And so you also have this broken logic as well that black people don't really have much. They don't own companies. They're not in any way in government. I mean, never mind Clarence Thomas being part of SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, arguably the most powerful group of people in America, right? Forget that. Forget all these billionaire black people. Forget all these black people that own businesses that are over hundreds of people, over hundreds of non-black people, okay? Never mind the fact that in spite of becoming the American president, which is by many means the most powerful position, the most powerful man on the planet. That's important. Not in one small region of the world, not in some small pocket geographically, but by President of the United States. That is the highest position one can hold in this country, short of Supreme Court, and there's a black guy there now, right? In spite of Barack Obama not only being elected once, not just one four-year presidency, but twice, 8 years as the most powerful man on the planet. In spite of that, people who hold this logic believe that there's a system of oppression intentionally placed to hold down black people, right? And so by this broken logic, black people can no longer be racist, or they can't be racist. Oh, they've never been racist. I mean, they never, I don't know, wrote the Constitution, or I don't understand this foolish logic. And the only way you can really come to this conclusion yourself is by forgetting that Barack Obama was president twice. Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court of the United States. Come on, man. This is so dumb. This is real stupid. And that's just the people I can think of off the top of my head. In spite of that, there's this belief that there's a system just put in place to hold black people back. If there's a system in place to hold black people back, okay, if there's a system in place to hold black people back, this well-established system that from hundreds of years ago was just, the record was being, the system was being put in place, that this system was intentionally holding black people back. How in God's name did Barack Obama become president? Fairly. Okay, how? This system sucks. If you really believe there's a system that's doing that, that system sucks. It's terrible. No system like that will let a black man who you believe to be just second class become president of the United States. That's so asinine. You have to basically dismiss simple logic to come to that conclusion. So anyway, by this logic, black people can't be racist, right? And again, it's by changing the definition of racism, understanding what racism is originally described, right? And just switching it up a little bit. And even then, it doesn't work. It's just dumb. It makes no sense. And so anyway, a lot of people believe this now. Black people can't be racist. This is so dumb. And yet, Nick Cannon got on his podcast and basically coolly, calmly said some of the most hateful stuff for another race of people I've heard in a long time. A long time. Check this out.
Let's go to what it really is then. When we talk about the power of melanated people, when we talk about who we really are as guys, and understanding that our melanin is so powerful and it connects us in a way that the reason why they fear black, the reason why they fear is because the lack that they have of it. The only way they have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and
fight or flight, okay,
in order to survive.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people.
Right.
They had to be savages. They had to be barbaric. Because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough, torrential environments. So they're acting as animals.
Right.
So they're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages.
A little closer to animals. If you're not on the same level racially, and one race is below the other, and animals are below that, you're saying there's a class of people that are subhuman. They're sub-ideal human, right? They're a second-class human. They're closer to the animals, so they're not as human. And on top of that, the logic for this is also insanely broken. The idea that a degree of melanin in your system determines whether or not you are a kind person, determines whether or not you are a loving person, determines whether or not you will treat people fairly or unfairly, is immensely stupid. It's dumb. It does not check out. It does not work when you use a modicum of logic. It does not work. As of right now, 70% of children in this country that are black live in a single parent household. I don't see much, melanin-based love and compassion for these kids. And they're black. Okay? I don't see this love and soulfulness for these kids who have been abandoned by their fathers. Half of the killing in this country for the last 4 years have been from black people against black people. And you want to sit here and tell me that the reason why black people are more soulful is because of their color of their skin, or that they're more loving? The numbers don't lie. That's not love. Abandoning your child is not love. Trying to shoot somebody and killing a kid, like what just recently happened in Chicago on multiple occasions, is not love. That's not any soulful melanin. That's not. Period. And some who might be watching this say, well, you don't understand. The system produces this. And what it does is it basically produces a system where people can't help but do that. Are you telling me that people, particularly people who do this stuff, are so subhuman that they cannot be responsible for the things they do? Is that what you're saying? You might say, no, that's not what I'm saying, but follow the logic. You're saying that the system, right, this nameless, faceless, apparently well-oiled machine meant to hold people down is what's making Pookie and Ray Ray go get a 9 and go out and shoot somebody. Are you telling me that the system produces revenge? Like the system is making me want to go kill somebody that dissed me the other day? Are you telling me that this system is somehow making me want to sleep with this woman, get her pregnant, and disappear? That system of oppression, man. I couldn't help but sleep with that girl, and now the system of oppression has me leaving. Come on. I mean, this is really insulting. It's very, very insulting. And so, racism exists by both black people and white people. He literally just declared a degree of superiority simply based on genetic means. Okay? He did it poorly, talking about Caucasus Mountains and stuff. Caucasus Mountains are nowhere near the North Pole or the South. Nowhere near. But hey, that's his logic. All right. I'm going to flip the coin here and switch away from black racism and talk about basically one of the more prominent figures, I guess, since Trump's election. And to be honest, it's really only because the media put this guy under a microscope to make, anyone that votes for Trump look bad. But I'm talking about Richard Spencer. Richard Spencer is basically, he's kind of like gone now, frankly. I wonder why, the news just picks whatever little carrot they want to dangle in front of people. But there was a time when he was basically considered the face of the alt-right Trump racism thing. And the guy's definitely a racist. He's hyper intelligent. He's a very smart guy. He's a very, very smart guy. Like, Richard does not have this open, seething, clearly visible malice against black people like a lot of racists do. And neither did Nick Cannon. Neither of them. Neither of them were sitting there like foaming at the mouth talking about how they hate the Negroes or how they hate the white people. None of that stuff. Both of their positions are based on their logical deductions. Like, they're deducing that one group of people, one racial group of people, is better than the other, right? And so here's a clip real quick of Richard Spencer talking to Jesse Lee Peterson and just basically saying that the reason why the black demographic is in such disarray is because they are merely black.
isn't the cause of the breakdown in the black family?
Yes,
in the
I am saying that.
What is the cause of the breakdown in the black community with black folks?
This might be difficult to take. I mean, this might be something that a lot of your listeners haven't heard before. There are many different causes. One of the most fundamental causes of the breakdown of the black community is simply the African race itself. We have evolved over tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years to be different races that are not different species, but are actually fundamentally different.
It's in their genes. So, here's the problem. You know, it's very difficult for people to talk about certain facts. And one thing that a lot of white supremacists talk about, it's factual, and it's the reality that the black demographic rates lower intellectually than the white demographic does. This is a known fact. This is the truth, period, point blank. It's by no means the fact exists, period, right? That's a actual truth. However, his position is that black people are in the state of disarray that they are now, right? And that their intelligence is lower now purely because of their genetic makeup. So here's a problem. It's a gentleman named Thomas Sowell, one of the most brilliant men I've ever listened to. I own a couple of his books. He's an incredible person, and everybody should know this guy. Thomas Sowell has a book called Black Rednecks and White Liberals. And in the book, he recognizes that there was, in fact, a time where black men, particularly during the Civil War, from the North, actually did better on mental tests than white men from the South. It's also, the whole North versus South thing, even prior to the Civil War, and even now, the idea that people from the North are more intelligent versus people from the South, a lot of it is really built around that. But nevertheless, black soldiers did better on mental tests than white soldiers did in the South. And so, you have to ask yourself, if families are as important as people say they are, if the father and the mother being present in the home and nurturing their child in a good, positive direction is so important, right? Then is it no surprise then that basically the environment in which a child is raised has a significant impact on that child? It has a significant impact on what they learn. It has a significant impact on the wisdom they have. It has a significant impact on the effectiveness that they have for life. This is passed down. We pass down a lot more than just merely genetic things. We also pass down, at times, bad habits. We often pass down terrible ideas. We often pass down broken cultures, right? And so there's absolutely a link with single motherhood and deadbeat dads. That is a often repeating process. The idea that this is all this kid knew, and so therefore he's prone to acting this way, that's a very real thing, okay? Fun fact, the Chinese do way better than white people do just on tests. In fact, Asian people kick butt in college. I actually mentioned this a long time ago, far past white people do. It's not their genes. These people have an excellent work ethic. These people have kids, and they basically give up everything for the well-being of that child. They set aside the money, right, to get them in the college. They give them a tremendously good work ethic, right? They teach them to strive for higher standards, right? And that is very much so a cyclical thing within the Asian demographic. It constantly happens. We have a son, we're going to push him. We're going to push him hard. We're going to devote practically all of our resources into this child. And this child's going to do well, better than most. And that happens again. That child has a family of his own. They complete the cycle again. These are some of those passed down cultures that are very good. They're positive. Okay, they are very good things, and it's very much so a habitual process, but a good one. And so, with these soldiers scoring higher in the North than white ones did in the South, it's also important to know that there's a difference in cultures. North versus South, very different thing at the time. Very different thing at the time. The whole redneck, hillbilly, blah, 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 like that definitely was a thing for a reason. And people from the North were often condescending and just looked down with the degree of arrogance that they did for a reason, okay? The North won in the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery, okay? The South did not want that to happen. They didn't. But it did. Okay. So you have to understand that relegating someone's capability down to the mere color of their skin is immensely dangerous. It's immensely dangerous. And so these guys are really two sides of the same exact coin. They're coming to these conclusions and saying the things they say because of those conclusions. That's just the fact of the matter. And so racism is very real, not just for white people. No, that's a very real thing. And especially as a Christian, I can tell you that the Bible teaches that human beings have an element of evil about them, that they are born in sin, if you will, that they need redemption, okay? That there is an evil basic nature in human beings. They're far from perfect. They need Christ for redemption from sins. They need Christ to be transformed, right? Like, whether or not you are a believer, you know that people are capable of horrible things. They're capable of good things, but also capable of very terrible things. And so, when you take that and realize that that doesn't respect color, it's a very human problem. It's just part of the human element. When you take those things, and then you see someone like Nick Cannon, okay? And then you see someone like Richard Spencer. It's no surprise then. It should be of no surprise to anyone to see these guys come to these standards. Like, not at all. Or come to these conclusions, rather. It should not be of any surprise whatsoever. And right now, the common lie, thanks to leftism, is that black people can't be racist. That's a lie. That there's not enough opportunity to be racist. Well, because you changed the definition, and even then that just doesn't make sense if I said before. Human beings can be evil, regardless of their skin color. That's the truth. And evil has many faces. It does. You have abuse, right? You have violence. You have a deceptive, manipulative people, We have sexually violent people, rape. That's a very real evil, right? We have racism. It's a very real evil and quite human. And so that's basically it. I just wanted to talk about this. This is painfully obvious reality. And apparently people just are not doing the logical steps to realize that, dude, it's so obvious. Evil exists in people, period. It's not exclusive to white people in some way. It's not exclusive to black people in some way. Not by a long shot. In fact, this whole Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of these people are running around having white people kneel and stuff. But that makes zero sense. That's not in any way restorative. For a lot of these people, it's not about restoration. It's about revenge. Don't forget that. For a lot of these people out here who feel like they are disenfranchised merely by being black, a lot of this is about revenge. And we all know that revenge is a very, very bad thing. So no, let's throw away this picture that black people are just merely victimless angels. That's a lie. Because God knows that all the dead black people who've been killed by black people would also agree. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you think about this. Comments are very much appreciated. And that's it for me. You guys have a good, safe weekend. It's Friday as I record this. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Whew. I really need to shave and do my hair.